Hey Truth Seekers, it's Carolyn here, and I'm going to be going over my deck build for our Elle, Holy Spirit, and Hope deck. So we play tested this one last night. It did really well. It beat Nathaniel's Alex deck. It just performed really well. So starting off, I do run 8 power cards in this build, and I run 4 of each simply because I do have cards that search for a standard power card. It just really didn't make sense to run any prayer since they can't use Holy Spirit, and it didn't really make sense to run any fasting because it really only works for the Holy Spirit ones. So it just made the most sense to run these. So we've got our Holy Spirit and our Hope up here, and we decided to run Elle because we are trying to make a deck build around all of the Truth Seekers. She's not one that we typically use. Not because she's not good, it's just that strategically the way that we play, it's not necessarily the best way that works for our play style. So I like her, but again, it's like she's not my favorite, but that's okay. She did really well last night, so I'm enjoying the difference here. So to begin, our off-color card for the deck is going to be Flow Ultra. This one, again, is specifically used for utility since we cannot play it. I technically do have the ability to play it in this deck with one of the equipment cards that I run, and we can go over that later. Beginning with our Holy Spirit here, I have 2 Vineon level 1 as my kind of little one-off cards here. These are a card that if I get them on my first turn, I can play them because I can use my Truth Seeker's power to play them. They don't give me a lot of points, but that's all right. I'm known for my little one-off guys. So next I have a single peregrine. I have the Bird of Prey. This one, it counts as a faith, hope, or love power during my score phase if I need it to. So this is a really good card to use our pulse chains on or something like that. But again, it also is 3 for 8. It's not that bad, and an 8 is a good cost here, especially when I'm trying to get points and get them quickly. I run 2 of the Cross Trainers Guppies level 1 because this allows me to search my deck for a faith or hope Animo, which is very helpful if I'm trying to like grow an Animo or something like that. So really helpful in that regard over the Red Letter Day Guppies. And along with that, I have 2 Guppies level 2. And this ability says when it's played from your hand to grow your Guppies level 1, you may reshuffle your hand into your deck and draw 6 cards. So that draw power is super powerful, really helpful when needed, and again, it's a 2 for 8, so really good value as well. Next, I have 2 Floraline level 1, and I chose to grow this into Floraline level 2 from Cross Trainers, because the ability says if you're facing a Cine, this card has no activation cost. This is also really helpful when using cards that have fellowship bonus on them. So this is really nice, especially when it is free. Next, I have some Flamingo level 1 to grow into my Flamingo level 2. I thought about running some Hope Flamingos level 2s, but I decided against it just because of the cost. But this one says that once per turn I get to draw a card for each faith, hope, or love in my small group. So this one is really great, but again, you have to be very strategic on what you have on your small group at the time, because if you don't have any hope, well, you can't use it to draw any cards. But being a 2 for 7, it's a pretty good card there. And then our next growth stage here, we have Quillo level 1. Growing into our Quillo level 2 that has a wonderful fellowship bonus here that can be activated in the same turn as a faith, hope, or love Animo level 1. So great card there, just really helpful for everything, and being a 2 for 10, it's really strong. Moving into our hope here, we have 3 Schwimmer, which not only does it have a fellowship bonus, it has an action that searches for a standard power card and places it directly in the power pool, and it is a 1 for 5 that allows you to get an extra power card, so it's really great in this build. It's definitely something you want to see early game as well. I run a single Infinifish. I might actually end up putting another one in there, but for now, one is good. And this one is a 1 for 4, as long as I shuffle it back into my deck instead of discarding it. I run 2 Aurora. She works as a hope power during your score phase if necessary. This is really good if you have your pulse chains. If you want to go get one of this and want a Schwimmer, you know, early turn or something, you can use this to pay for your Schwimmer to go get you more power cards. So really good card there. Due to the fellowship bonus on it, I decided to run Amaryllis. It's not one we've really run before. So I like the 2 for 8 there, and it's just a good card. It works really well in this build. And in kind of an older win condition here, I have Dependaroo, level 1 and level 2. Being a 1 for 12 is super strong, and so I run this one over some of the other hope growth stages or win cons, and I really like running it in this deck. It really feels pretty good, especially when you have things like Schwimmer that can help you build back your power pool pretty easily. The other Ultra I run in the deck is Percy Ultra because of its ability that allows me to draw a card once per turn as long as it's in my small group. So it's a 3 for 12. Pretty good value, but when I can have a 1 for 12 at the same time, I mean, obviously I want to put Dependaroo, but Dependaroo doesn't draw me any cards, so having Percy Ultra in here is really good. Moving on to equipment cards, I run a Paul's Chains in here. For obvious reasons, we use Paul's Chains in most of our decks due to its ability to just go get some level 1s in there, so this is a really good setup card and really good utility. Now, as I was talking about earlier with Flow, I run the Breastplate of Righteousness. So if I don't have the exact power that I need to play all the Animo that I want to play in a single turn, I'm going to throw this on one of them and allow me to be able to use the power that I do have at hand. And so this one is really great. It turns any hope costs into a universal cost, meaning I can pay anything for it. Or it turns faith, love, or Holy Spirit into a hope cost. So any of my Holy Spirit Animo turn into hope cost, which it can also include my Flow Ultra. So if I do decide that I want to, use it for its utility once and bring it back, and then use it for something else later on and use it for points, I can do that with this equipment card. So it's great equipment to run in this deck. Next, I run my 2 equipment that work with my Holy Spirit. I have Myrrh, which reduces its cost by 1 Holy Spirit power, and I have my Sword of the Spirit, which has 3 extra virtue points for any Animo that is attached to. So really good cards there. Moving on to story cards, I have Indwelling, which allows me to search the deck for up to 2 Holy Spirit power cards and put them in my hand. So it doesn't allow me to play them directly in my power pool, but that is okay. I can have them set up for my next couple of turns. Next, I have my Bible Study Holy Spirit. Search your deck for any 1 Holy Spirit Animo. And also, as a similar vein, I have my Letter to Galatia, which searches for a card that has a Holy Spirit Fellowship bonus. So these cards work really great. This one I can go use to get my Dependaroo. This one I can go get my Guppies level 2, just whatever I need them to do. They're really good utility story cards. And then moving on to draw power, I have 2 hidden treasures that allow me to put a card back and then be able to draw, because sometimes I just draw extra things that I don't really want to discard, but I don't really want to keep them in my hand either. Similarly, I run the Rich Fool, which just allows me to draw the bottom 3 cards. I don't have to get rid of anything to play this one. I have a Shake and Break in here. I get to return 2 level 1 Animo, excluding Ultras, from my discard pile to my hand. This is really good for Schwimmer, Aurora, things like that to kind of help me get set up. This can also go get my Peregrine. It can go get other things as well. And then finally, for my story cards, I run Fishing Nets. It allows me to draw 2 and or 4 cards, depending on where my hand size is at. And then finally, my Cinnies. I have Splidapidator. This card is revealed. Your opponent must shuffle half the Animo from their small group back into their deck, rounding up. So this card really can be very strategic when played in the right moment, especially against a Truth Seeker like Alex, who within the first part of the game allows you to have 5 Animo in your small group. This card would get rid of 3 of them, which last night that was actually pretty fun to play. Next we have Merkay, He is in the dark. As long as the Cine is active, your opponent may draw no more than 2 cards during their draw phase, regardless of their hand size. So he's just really rude. That's just what he is. We have Hookworm here. As long as the Cine is active, all your opponent's Animo require 1 extra universal cost in order to be activated. Especially when your opponent is trying to activate 5 Animo in a single turn, and they may, need all of their power. This one really throws a wrench in their plans. Next we have Grump Roast, again throwing a wrench in his plans. I put this one in here. As long as the Cine remains active, your opponent may have no more than 3 Animo in their small group at a time. If more than 3 are in your small group when this card is revealed, they have to discard down to 3. So really awesome card, especially against the Alex build. Next we have Fear Crow. Fear Crow chooses 1 level 2 or level 3 Animo from your opponent's small group and reverts it back to its level 1, which really stinks sometimes, but it's great when you can play it on your opponent. Next we have Globster. As long as the Cine remains active, your opponent must discard the top card of their deck as soon as their turn begins before drawing any cards. So it's great if they've stacked their deck in some such way. This is a really fun card. Next we have Bob Bubble. As long as this card remains active, your opponent may not have more than 1 Animo of the same name in their small group at a time. And the fun fact, its weakness is Peregrine, so I run its weakness, but my opponent doesn't. And then finally, we have a Mega. I've kind of been going away from using Megas in my past couple of builds, but I went back to it. We have Nastri Mega here. He is big and he is mean. So that's my Mega for the deck. And I have my 2 Ultras out here, which just makes things a lot of fun in this deck. So this is my Holy Spirit and Hope Elle deck build. So, Truth Seekers, keep learning virtues and defeating Cines.